Morning everybody, welcome back to another video. And today we are back in iRacing. It's the best way for me to explain this video to you. I haven't done any racing in the rain in Project Motor Cars, motor racing, but these are all simulators. The cars are all, they've got the exact same configurations. The cars are all set up in the same way, so the one is transferable to the other one. So what I actually wanted to actually say is, or actually explain, is how you would adjust your setup from racing in the dry to racing in the rain. So like I said, the best way to explain this is from iRacing, because I've got a lot of experience driving in the rain in iRacing. I've got no experience driving in the rain in Project Motor Racing. I haven't done it yet. So anyway, okay, so here we are. We are at Misano. Because the reason I chose this track is I have driven here actually quite a lot in the rain. So before we start, guys, I've got a lot of support at the moment. My channel's growing immensely in the last month since this game's come out. I'm obviously not a full-time streamer. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate everyone's liking and comments and everything like that. So anyway, okay, so let's get on to this video. So how do you adjust your car for how, if you go into a lobby, I'm assuming at some point there's going to be a wet race. How do you set your car up? Okay, so there are three different ways. There's the electronics, there's the mechanical grip, and your driving style. So what I'm going to first do is the electronics. That is the fastest way to start. So before we do this, okay, please remember all cars handle differently, all cars have their own characteristics, and everyone's got their own driving style. So this is not a specific setup for a specific car. This is a general setup for how to get the car handling okay, and obviously from there you need to tweak it to suit your driving style. So okay, so let's go. We're going to start with the electronics. So I've got a baseline setup, my setups, and I've got my default dry setup. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start with the bias. Okay, so what the bias does, when you're going into the corner at full speed and you start braking, the lower the bias, the more the weight of the car shifts onto the front. I have explained this in a previous video. You can go watch my other videos. Okay, but you actually want the weight of the car on the front tires to actually slow the car down as much as possible in the shortest space as possible. So that's very different in the rain. Okay, in the rain you want to keep the center of gravity in the middle of the car. You want to keep the car as stable as possible. So if you go to brake bias, okay, so you can actually read on the right hand side over here as well. I just want to make sure I'm actually recording this. Okay, so how does the brake bias work? Okay, the car is more stable under braking, no longer braking distances. Okay, but longer braking distance are needed. Too little front bias and the car wants to spin under braking. Okay, so what that means is, in the dry, you would move your brake bias as low as possible before when you turn in, the rear of the car slides the car around. Okay, so in the rain, you don't want that. You want to keep the center of gravity in the center of the car. You want to keep the car stable as possible. So I'm just going to go to my setups. I'm going to be doing this a lot. Rather than go through all the settings, I am just going to show you the comparisons. Okay, so in the wet, it's for me, this is my car setup. Remember, everyone's got their own driving style. So you still have to adjust the bias according to what car you're driving, according to your driving style. But in general, in the wet, you make the brake bias that's on 54. On the dry, it's on 51. So in general, in the wet, you want to make the brake bias more to the rear. Okay, you'll put it to 54. I've got it at 54.8. That suits my braking, that suits my car, it suits my driving style. So the brake bias changes. That's the first part of the electronics that you need to change when it's a wet race. The next one, okay, is the ABS. Okay, now if you read on the right, there are 12 positions. 1 is off, 2 has the least support, 12 has the most support. Positions 2 to 7 are for slick tires on a dry track. Settings 8 to 12 are for wet. 8 is suitable for light rain, 12 is suitable for heavy rain. So you need to look at the conditions. Okay, if it's extremely wet, you want to make your brake bias as high as you can for stability, so the tires don't lock and the car doesn't spin. Okay, when it's dry, basically level 2 to level 7. If it's light rain, maybe 8 to level 10. Okay, and if it's heavy rain, it's up to 12. That's basically how your brake bias works. Okay, oh, sorry, that's how your ABS works. In the GTE cars, there is no ABS. This is a GT3 car. I thought I would do the comparisons with the ABS on in a GT3 car, because there are some people that are watching the video that probably race GT3 cars. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing. You are going to be raising your ABS according to the weather and according to your driving. So you might go, I generally start with it on full, and then if it's drying out, I will put it a little bit lower. Okay, but the higher numbers, the higher settings are for the rain. So that's something else that you have to adjust. The other thing that you want to adjust is your traction control settings. Okay, so again, there are 12 positions. 1 is off, 2 is the least support, 12 is the most support. Positions 2 to 7 are for a slick dry track, 8 to 12 are for wet. 8 is suitable for light rain, 12 is suitable for heavy rain. Okay, so that is what you do. You increase your ABS and you increase your traction control. Why am I reading this to you? Is because Project Motor Racing doesn't have any explanations, so people probably don't know this, whereas in iRacing you can see the explanations on the right. That's why I've been doing all my setup work with iRacing and not with Project Motor Racing. The other one that I want to show you is the throttle shaping. Okay, that is how you feed in the throttle. It's not so it's got like a curve, so you can feed it in uniform. The more throttle you give, the faster the car starts accelerating. Or you can change the shape. So what that means is, it's the more you put in, it's not a direct increase, it increases more slowly. So the more throttle shape you put, the more slowly it feeds in. So this again would probably be affected by your driving style, affected by your car, how much power the car's got. So I've generally got in the wet a throttle map of 2, an ABS of 9, and traction control of 10. Those are my default settings. And a brake bias at 54. Okay, so let's compare that to the dry. So it's 54, 9, 10, 2. 54, 9, 10, 2. 54, 9, 10, 2. Dry. 51, 4, 5, 1. So you can see there's quite a big difference here. Okay, again, that's affected by your driving style. So the other thing that you want to do, okay, so those are the 4 electronic settings that I wanted to explain to you. Okay, so when you get to a wet track, what do? You increase the brake bias, you increase the ABS, you increase the traction control, and you probably also increase the throttle shape. Okay, right, now for the mechanical grip. Okay, so when there's water on the track, okay, you don't want to run the car very low because you don't want the car to aquaplane. you want to run the car a little bit higher. Again, on my dry setup, I've got it set to 42. Yes, this is low because iRacing has made a change and I'm now driving a different car. I'm actually driving the Aston Martin because it's a new car that's like come out. This was the car I drove previously. It's the McLaren. I got tired of it. I bought the new car. So I haven't done any more setups in the rain with the McLaren. But because it's now in iRacing, it's the so-called summertime. There was no rain races this last season, so I haven't got a wet setup for the Aston Martin. Okay, so let's just bear that in mind. But you can see here, the front splitter is 14.2 and the ride height is 47. Okay, let's go back to the wet setup. Okay, the ride height is 36 and the front splitter is 36 and that is also 46.2. So the ride height is higher and the front splitter is higher. Okay, so that's the difference. So you want to adjust your ride height higher when it's wetter. Okay, obviously that's car specific, it's a driving style specific. So I'm not telling you how to tune the car right now. I'm just giving you a ballpark figure of what needs to happen and how you need to start your car setup in the event that you do get rain. Okay, so you want the car to be higher so the car doesn't aquaplane. Okay, and that you would adjust with these settings. Okay, the other thing that you want to do is you want to run the rear wing as high as you can. And the whole purpose of the rear wing being high is it pushes the car into the ground. The ground sorry, not the ground doesn't affect. You want to run the car into the ground so that it's stable, so that it's got more mechanical grip, so you can go around the corners faster, the car won't slide faster. So you will generally run a very high wing compared to a dry setup where it's a much lower wing. Okay, so you can read on the right, the lower wing, less downforce, less drag, it's high top speed, but longer braking distance, higher rear wing, more downforce, more drag, shorter braking distance and higher cornering speeds, high wing angles, shift the aero balance rearwards, more high speed understeer. Okay, so that is the other one that you are going to have to do before a wet race. You would obviously raise the wing. Okay, now some people might say, but what if it's light rain and the track is dry? Or what if it's a dry race and it rains during the week, during the rain? Okay, you need to kind of look at the forecasts and plan your race. If it's like 60-70% of the race is dry or drying, you will not run a full rear wing. You will just be lighter on the throttle when it is raining, and then that your car will be faster when it's drying. So it's kind of weather specific as well. For this tutorial, it's basically one extreme to the other. A dry race or a wet race. That in between is something you guys are just going to have to figure out on your own. Okay, so before we change from this page, okay, let's go back. You will increase your brake bias so the car is more stable under braking. There's less weight shifting about in the car. You would increase your ABS so that your wheels are not locking, which could create skidding and it could create the car to slide. You will increase your traction control so that the car is more stable under acceleration coming out the corners so it doesn't spin the car. You increase your throttle shape. Okay, so it feeds the power in a little bit more gentle. You raise the ride height of the car, that you do over here, and you will raise the rear wing. Okay, so there's one last thing that needs to get done. Okay, your dampers. Okay, so this is what your car does when it goes through a corner. So when it's dry, you want the car to be as stiff and rigid as it possibly can be, because you want the car to power around the corners. You don't want it leaning. Okay, when it's wet, you're not going through the corners with such speed. You want to minimize that amount of G's. You want the damping to be softer. You actually don't want the car to be so rigid. You want the car to lean a little bit more into the corners, because that affects the tires. It affects the contact patch with the road, and it also affects how much grip you got going around the corners. Okay, so this is a dry setup. If you look at the numbers, 22, 35, 21, 45. Okay, my setups. Let's go to a wet setup. Okay, the wet default. See, we're suddenly getting 50s. Okay, because you want less compression. High speed, you see, 50 is the minimum. High speed compression affects how this corner of the car, okay, responds over bumps and curb strikes. Is setting 0 is maximum damping, and setting 50 is the minimum damping. Okay, so you want as little damping as what you can get. Okay. Again, the high-speed rebound damping affects how this corner of the car responds over bumps and curb strikes. 0 is maximum, and 50 is minimum. Okay, so you got obviously 4 settings. You got 4 wheels. Okay, so you want the damping to be at a minimum. You don't want the car to be so rigid. The damping at the minimum. The low-speed damping, okay, affects how quickly the damper extends in transient handling. More low-speed rebound slows the rate, okay, at which the damper extends. Setting 0 is maximum damping, and 40 is the minimum damping. So for this is the rebound. That is affects how quickly the damper extends in transient handling. So that means how fast it goes from the maximum to the minimum, and vice versa. So that affects the weight shift on the wheels when you're going around a corner. Do you want it to be very quickly, or do you want it to be more gradual? In a rain, you don't want the weight to move around the car. You're not throwing the car around the track. You're not moving the weight of the car forward and back, left and right as fast as possible. You want to keep the car as stable as possible with the center of gravity over the car as much as possible. Any shift in weight or too much shift in the weight is going to spin the car out. So you want to keep the car as stable as possible. Okay, so that is basically the last part of this explanation. Okay, so let's go over it again. Let's go over everything. You want to increase the brake bias so the weight of the car is not forced to the front. Think of it like you are not pushing something, you are pulling something. It's much more stable to pull. If you push, it's going to... Okay. You want the ABS to be as high as you can make it on a wet track. You want the traction control to be as high as you can make it on a wet track. You want to feed the throttle in on a more reserved way, not so violent, so you will raise that. You want the ride height to be higher. That'll be this. You want the wing to be maximum, okay, for maximum downforce, so the car is pushed into the ground as much as possible. You want to increase your damping or decrease your damping. You actually want to make it so that the car is not so rigid, so the car leans into the corners more. That is how you set a car up for the rain. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to load, because my setups are outdated, the baseline wet setup for iRacing. I just want to have a look at something. Okay, let's put this to 50. Okay. These are important. Okay, chassis 10.5. 54, 10, 10. Okay, I'm going to make this map 2. Okay. So let's just go do a couple laps. Okay. So this is a long pit lane, so you just got to bear with me. So you'll hear the car is splattering a lot more. I'm just going to increase the brake bias a little bit, because I haven't driven this specific car for a long time. Okay. So what I generally do is, okay, we've got cold tires as well. So what I generally do is, I don't just brake. I don't just go from basically acceleration to brake. I accelerate, then I lift off, and then I start applying brakes slowly. We also, at the moment, we've got very cold tires, but you can see the car is very stable, and you can hear it's feeding in power very smoothly. And when I brake, I'm not using full brake, I'm only braking. You can watch my brake pedal on my dash. Full throttle. Okay, it's a high speed corner. So now just a little brake. You can see you don't want to accelerate when the car is turning. You want the car to be stable. You want to look for a dry line as well. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple laps. We'll start getting faster. So here you can see I'm going over like a dry patch. You can see I'm braking at about 50%. I'm not braking hard at all. I lift off and then I brake. So you feed the power in gently, smoothly. Okay, let's just go. I also try not to go down into first gear, because it spins the car around. It starts to slide. Okay, so let's feed the throttle in. I went a bit wide there. A while since I have driven this car, and I've driven the circuit, but this circuit, for some reason, it's mostly raining. Okay, so these are the high speed corners. So now we're going to look for a bit more of a dry track. Here it is. Dry tracks on the outside here. You're going to gear down. You're going to keep the left side on the dry track. Again, you're going to keep the left side on the dry part of the track. When I power out the corners, I try to stay in second. Okay, here's the dry track, you can see it, the dry line, let's go. I'm going to get faster. Let's find the dry part of the track.
That lap was at 2:12.00.
You've got to be so careful. I can feel the rivers when you're going through the freaking puddles. It starts to slide the car. You also want to try stay away from the paint and the curbings as best you can. Okay, I made a mistake there, but okay, let's go. You can see we're slowly getting faster because we're getting used to the conditions now. But you have to be very careful on your brake. And feed in the power a lot more gentle. This is the fast part of the track. Stay off the paint, stay off the paint, don't turn the car.
Limits, please, Steve.
Gonna do one more lap. Just for the purpose of the video. So there's a big learning curve when it rains. You have to learn what's happening with the actual truck because you have to learn where the dry patches are, where the water puddles are. And you'll just gradually get faster and faster, and obviously tire temperatures as well. Sure, the car's sliding because I'm on the wrong side of the track. I was in the puddles. You want to sometimes short shift. You can feel in the car if it's a bit too much power, or like there, it's a bit too much, it's starting to slide. You can also short shift. But you can see we're getting faster every lap now. We're learning where the dry lines or the drier parts are, how much grip the car's got.
Sector 1 time is good.
Let's see if we can now get through this section much faster. We're 6 seconds a lap faster than we were. Well,
Sector 2 time is quick.
so what I normally do is, like, rule of thumb. If I normally go through a corner in fourth, in the rain I'll generally go through in third. It's like you just that bit slower, that is generally one gear down. Okay, so we're 7 seconds faster on that lap.
That lap time was 2:05.00. That's your fastest lap. Your times are good in all 3 sectors.
Honestly, I don't know how you could do this with a controller. Might be different on Project Motor Racing, but on iRacing it'll probably be impossible. Getting faster every lap.
Sector 1 time's okay.
I actually broke too early for that one now. Yeah, so you've obviously got to be a lot more gingerly with your throttle inputs, your brake inputs. So the high-speed corners is obviously a lot more downforce on the car. So.
Sector 2 time is okay.
And you'll have to practice a lot more. Yeah, you're getting faster seconds by seconds every lap now. Let's do one last lap. I'm actually having fun.
Your last lap time was at 2:01.34. That's your best lap in this session. Your times are good in all 3 sectors.
So the increments will start getting less and less as we get a bit closer to our peak lap time or our optimal lap time. I pushed a bit hard there. Okay, this will be our last lap, guys. I mean, I don't want to make a 20-minute video of just driving around.
Sector 2 time is good.
So the dry line here is on the outside over here, so you want to stay on the outside, there'll be more grip. There we go, first sub 2-minute lap time.
You've just done a 1:58.59. Good lap. That's your quickest so far.
So I'm starting to slide the car a bit more now because the tyres are a bit warmer, they've got a bit more grip. So they don't lose as much traction.
Sector 1's quick.
This is such a tight corner. It's deceivingly tight, actually. So you can see we're actually shaving many seconds off now as I'm getting more used to the rain, as the tyres are getting warmer. This is a nice section to come through. I was pushing a little bit too hard there.
Now delete this lap. You've cut the track.
Okay, yeah, I was pushing a little bit too hard there.
Clear, just slow down. Penalty.
Well, we're still faster than what we were. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Okay guys, so that's how you set your car up for the wet races. So if you have a look, it was 211, 27, 24, 21, 158, 157. So that is, yeah, as the tires get warmer, as you learn the track conditions, where the dry line is, where you need to push, and you can feel how the car's handling, then you can even start lowering your brake bias if you want to, lowering your traction control. I've got that on my wheel. I can actually change them in car. So like if you have a look here, so let's get out of the pits. So I can adjust my brake bias. You can see it adjusting. Let's just get out of the pits so I can get, okay, so as it starts drying, if it is a drying track, you will start lowering your brake bias. If it starts getting hotter, you will increase it. Now you should be able to see as well over here on the top of my dash, as it starts drying, you start lowering your traction control, and so you can see that's the car's immediately not actually drivable. You can't put any power down. Okay, that's what happens if your traction control is too low on a wet track. Okay guys, I hope that was informative. I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. I don't know why my frame rates are suddenly so low. It's with this OBS. It's a problem. Anyway, okay guys, thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a super day. Hopefully you can learn how to transfer that into your project motor racing car setup. Thank you. Goodbye.